Alright, so this is part 2 of the pseudocode to code explanation of the car comparison program. So when we left off before, we were talking about asking the user for info in using the scanner class. So basically the first thing that we did was we created a line here where we did our system.out.println and we just asked the user for some info. So the first bit of information that we asked was for their distance from home to work. Just a standard print to the screen. Then we took the variable distWork, which we created here, and we set it to in.nextInt. Basically what we're doing is we're calling this object here and we're reusing the object, our scanner object in, and we're calling the method nextInt, which is part of the scanner class. So basically all that does is it creates a value or changes the value of distance worked to whatever the user enters. So we have 4 variables here for that. Basically we have to do the same thing too. So we need to get user input for distance worked, number of work days, the beginning mileage, and the ending mileage, because these are the things that we are going to use to calculate the other things. So after we've done that, and notice each of these go together. If you're going to ask the user for information, you have to create a scanner line here to get that information. So basically, you're setting that variable that you're going to use, that you're going to store that information in. You're setting it equal to this input, and that's using the in object of the scanner class. Okay, so the next thing that we have to do is we have to create our calculations. Now, we did this in the last video, but that was before we actually had any kind of user input. All right, so we need to make sure that these come after the user input, because we don't want it to be set to 0 and be only 0. We want to make sure that we get that information from the user to use it. So we have our total mileage, which is equal to the ending mileage minus the beginning mileage, and then our work mileage, which is equal to the distance worked times the number of days. Okay, so basically the next thing that we have to do is we have to create another variable, and we're going to call it int personal mileage or pers mileage. And so if basically personal mileage is the total mileage minus what you work. Okay, so think about this. The total mileage is all the miles that you've driven on your car. In order to get other than work mileage, you have to subtract that work mileage out of the total mileage. So the equation is very simple. Total mileage minus work mileage. So that's going to give us our personal mileage. Okay? So it's just that simple. So now finally what we're going to do is we're going to use our sysout, and we're going to print basically we're going to print the results of our program. So we're going to use a string, the total mileage you drove is, and then we're going to concatenate our variable total mileage. So that's basically going to say, okay, it's going to print to the screen, this is the total mileage that you drove is, and then it's going to print that and whatever the calculation is of the total mileage. Okay, now the next thing we're going to do, we're just going to do, now you could do this all together, or we can make different statements for it. your total work mileage is, and then we concatenate the work mileage variable. And then finally, we'll do another sysout. So basically, these are just all going to print one after the other. Your personal mileage is, close it, concatenate with the plus operator, and we're going to do PERS mileage. Okay, so we go over it one more time and we check, make sure that there are no red lines. We have a little warning here that N is never closed. We're not going to worry about that right now, because that's something for a little bit more sophisticated programming. Okay, so let's look back and make sure that we have everything that we need. So you want to find out which fraction of your car use is for commuting to work and which is for personal use. Okay. Now, what we've done here is we've printed out the total mileage, we printed out the work mileage, and we printed out the personal mileage. Now, it says fraction. We could actually go the extra mile and do the calculations for the fraction of work and that sort of thing, but we're just not going to do that right now. That would be just an added feature. So let's run our program and see if it works. So you go up here and press run. It's going to ask you if you want to save, and we click OK. And down here in the console, it says please enter your distance from home to work. We're going to do 10 miles. Please enter the number of days. We're going to work 10 days. Please enter your beginning mileage, 2,000. Enter. And our ending mileage is 3,000. Okay, so your total mileage that you drove is 1,000. Your total work mileage is 100, and your personal mileage is 900. Very good. We're done.